Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the ArtStop today. Every Thursday and third Tuesday of the month, we stop for 15 minutes to discuss 1 to 3 works of art. My name is Brittany Salyers. I'm the coordinator of public programs here at the museum. Usually I'm behind the scenes coordinating these programs, but I came out in front of you all and the camera today to speak about this exhibition, Women, War, and Industry, and specifically these 2 works by Iana Quesnell. This exhibition examines the myriad ways in which women have been represented in relation to war and industry in modern and contemporary art in the United States. This exhibition predominantly features works in the museum's permanent collection with a focus on World War I and World War II war posters, as well as photographs by significant artists such as Margaret Burke-White and Esther Bublé. This exhibition also emphasizes works created by women. In fact, nearly 70% of the works in this exhibition are created by women. Pretty great statistic for a modern and contemporary art gallery. In order to complement the museum's holdings, we have also included a number of works by artists such as Iana Quesnell. She is a San Diego-based artist who lived in Tijuana for 6 years and recently relocated back to San Diego. Her work is very much about mapping, both literal mapping and conceptual mapping. In many of her large-scale drawings, she focuses on mapping physical movement within a defined geographic space, which many of these pieces often relate to her life and therefore become a sort of autobiography presented through landscape. A little bit of background about the artist. She was born in Tampa, Florida, and attended the University of Tampa as an art major. Eventually, she became bored with school, and after graduation, she entered the Army like both of her parents and her 3 brothers had. She also eventually became bored with the Army, and after serving in Bosnia, and after an honorable discharge, she began working at a fox hunting ranch in Reno, Nevada. During this time, she actually seriously injured her hand in a riding accident, and that brought her career in ranch management to a sudden halt. This was her wake-up call. She said that there was a moment where she thought she'd never be able to work with art again, which was something she had always gone back to for comfort. And because of this, she became intent on studying art at UC San Diego. So in 2000, she moved to San Diego and was promptly rejected by the university. In fact, she was rejected 3 times. During this time, when she was compiling her submission portfolios, she made ends meet by working 3 part-time jobs, including one as a cashier at Trader Joe's. It was there that she found herself asking, what am I doing? And what am I doing here? Instead of being miserable as a cashier, she decided to embrace working there. And she started logging, analyzing, and eventually mapping and drawing her interactions with customers. Once she embraced this idea of mapping, she was able to speak about her art with such excitement that she was finally accepted into UCSD's graduate program. Yes. She had found her voice, and this was recognized. Exhibitions at the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego, Secut in Tijuana followed, as well as showings in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and a San Diego Art Prize. Many of you will remember a few years ago, Dr. Amy Galpin, our former curator for Art of the Americas, included one of her pieces in our exhibition, Behold America. The piece is entitled Triptych Migration Path, and I'll pass this around since it's very tiny and there are a lot of you. This 3-part large-scale drawing maps the artist's journey on public transportation from her former home in Tijuana to her former studio in La Jolla. So that'll be circulating around. Quesnell did complete her master's degree and now teaches at the University of San Diego and Mira Costa College 2 days a week. I'm turning now to the pieces that are here in our exhibition. This piece, titled Burial Flag from 2010, is also a mapping of her story. This is the burial flag of her father. He was a veteran who served in Iceland during the Cuban Missile Crisis. She was given this flag at age 19 at her father's funeral, and she kept it folded up for 23 years. Well, living in Tijuana a few years ago, and prompted by her friends' and neighbors' animosity towards the U.S., she started thinking about her identity as an American. I have a quote here from her. She says, "My nationality is American, and part of the American nationality is a history of exploration and conquest, imperialism and all of that. But rather than being a critic of myself, I was looking for ways of embracing my identity and my history." So she unfolded the flag, and she began to meticulously draw it over a period of 4 months. You know, looking at the flag, I mean, her rendering looks as much like a topographical map as much of a drawing. The wrinkles, the lines, the crevices and contours, they literally evoke this sense of natural terrain and topography. And if you get close, you'll see, I mean, just using minute attention to detail, she has created this very dynamic and elaborate portrait of her father's burial flag. She writes that this particular flag symbolizes the American landscape, American nationalism, and the passing of my father. It represents both an historical narrative about the United States and a personal narrative about my father. I'm going to move over to the second work here, so everybody come along with me. This piece here, titled Bosnia Herzegovina from 2006, actually reflects her own military service. She was stationed in Bosnia as part of a peacekeeping mission, and her job in Bosnia was to guard this. It was a satellite and a utility truck, and what was in the utility truck was top secret. So in her ode to that, you see this space as blank. So with this piece, what Iana is really doing is mapping her campsite. It's not a wholly realistic representation of the campsite. She's showing us multiple angles and viewpoints simultaneously. But you can see here this, what looks like ripped cloth, is meant to evoke camouflage. And there is also this netting that was over the entire campsite. These little propeller-looking structures are meant to represent the structures that were holding up the netting over the entire campsite. And you can see if you look closely, there's barbed wire around the whole campsite. Now, she was stationed here for about 6 months, and 24 hours a day, they had to switch out and guard this truck and satellite. She, when she was stationed here, was the only woman, so she lived here, and everybody else lived in this larger tent here. When in her tent was oriented towards a farm where she could see a haystack that was constantly evolving. Different cows would come and eat the hay and then walk away. She said it was sort of like her sightseeing while she was there. Of course, the art historical reference is not lost on her. She mentioned that during the tremendous boredom of watching this truck day after day for 6 months, the poetic process of the evolution of this haystack really did remind her of Monet's haystacks. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my ArtStop, this exhibition looks at the ways that women have been represented, but also the ways that women artists have represented women and just war and industry itself. And these works by Iana Quesnell really do bring a unique viewpoint and dimension to this exhibition, given that she is both a female artist and a veteran herself. So thank you all for joining me on the ArtStop today.